What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Trey here as always, and today I have some more content related to ZEGOCLOUD, this time specifically for creating a live streaming video call app. If you haven't seen my video previously, I did one discussing how we can set up a one-on-one video call app, but this time I figured it'd be a good idea to invite more people to the party and create a live streaming application where we can have a host that allows other users to sit in and watch that host stream whatever content that they decide. So I'm going to skip all the details about ZEGOCLOUD. You should kind of be up to par with it by now. If not, go ahead and check out my last video and I'll leave a link in the description to that. But I'm going to go ahead and jump right into creating this live streaming application. So I'm going to go to the dashboard for ZEGOCLOUD. As you can see here at the top, I have some other applications that I've already made, but I'm going to show you how to create this app from scratch. So we're going to go to create project, select a use case for your app. We'll select live streaming. Hit next. Give the project a name. I'll call this my live streaming app. Must be maybe too many characters. Let's see. My live streaming app. Yeah, my live streaming app works. All right. Then we'll select start with UI kits. And we'll let this build for a second. The app is now being created. We'll select start building your app. I'm going to select for Flutter, and then I'll select save and start to integrate. And here we have two important pieces of information for our application. We have the app ID and the app sign. Just know that these two are necessary for using the ZEGOCLOUD package within Flutter. So we're going to save these into a safe location and use them later for setting up the app. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm on the desktop of my MacBook, and the first thing that we need to do is actually create this Flutter project. So I'm going to cd to my desktop and then run the command flutter create ZEGOCLOUD. Actually, my live streaming app, we'll call it that. My live streaming app. All right, now we can open up VS Code, or I've been using Cursor lately, so I'll use that one. And we'll open the project that I just created, which is my live streaming app. All right, everything should be in here. Perfect. So first thing that we need to do is add some dependencies, as always. So we will go into the terminal. And the first one that we need to add is the ZEGO UI Kit pre-built live streaming package. This will allow us to use all of the UI kits that ZEGOCLOUD provides for the app. Flutter pub add ZEGO UI Kit pre-built live streaming. Oops. Great. Now we need to add the .flutter.env package. This will allow us to read from a .env file, which will store the app sign and app ID, as well as the clerk key for authentication. So flutter pub add flutter _.env. Next, we need to add clerk flutter. This is simply for authentication purposes, and it's not the focal point of the video, but it will allow us to work with authentication a little bit easier when it comes to determining what user we're using when we start a stream or when we're watching a stream. So we'll run flutter pub add clerk flutter. All right, that's good. Next, we're going to add gap. This is just a UI package. It adds space in between rows and columns. Saves a little bit of time when coding, so this is just for convenience. Flutter pub add gap. And last but not least, we need to add Flutter block. And this is simply, like I said earlier, this is not the focal point of the video, but this is just for using a better state management when it comes to storing the user information that we receive when we authenticate to the app. Flutter pub add Flutter block. Oh, forgot the C. Let's do that again. All of our packages are in. Now we need to create the .env file. This is going to be used for, like I said earlier, storing the app sign and app ID, as well as the clerk key for authentication. New file, .env. First, we're going to need the ZEGO app ID. Then we also need ZEGO app sign. And finally, the clerk key. Now, since these are environment variables, I'm not going to show you these keys directly, but just know that these are the values that our flutter.env package will read from. Also, we need to go into the pubspec.yaml now, and we need to add a reference to the .env file that we created. Might need to space that. There we go. Everything is good on the Flutter side. Now let's get a little bit more specific and configure some things for iOS directly. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to go into the pod file. Within here, we need to add some logic for allowing permissions for the camera and the microphone. And I got these just from the ZEGOCLOUD documentation website, but essentially this is the code that you would be adding in here. I just copy and pasted it just to save a little bit of time, but as you can see, it's adding permissions for the camera and microphone. We also need to increase the minimal deployment target to 13 for iOS devices. Finally, for iOS, we need to go into the info.plist file and add these permissions. So I copy and pasted this as well, but these are just the two permissions that you need: the NS camera usage description and NS microphone usage description, which will give us access to the camera and the microphone. So iOS is complete. Now let's jump over to the Android side. Pretty similar to iOS, we need to add some permissions. So we need to go to the Android manifest file, which is right here. And then we need to paste in these permissions that you can see at the top right here. And we'll make that a little bit pretty. There we go. All right, our permissions are in. We also need to update the NDK version for our build.gradle.kts file. So as you can see right here, it's being set to flutter.ndk version, but we want to go ahead and set it to this value right here, 27.0.120.77973. The application would probably still run, but I don't think it would probably run as smooth maybe, or there might be some issues with compatibility using some of the ZEGOCLOUD features in an Android app. I'm not 100% sure. I just know that adding this gave me no errors when it came to building my Android project. So everything is good as far as configuration. Let's run this app just as it is to make sure that everything is working how it needs to. As we can see here on the left, we have the basic default Flutter app, just the counter app that comes standard for Flutter applications in the beginning. So everything is good there. So now I'm going to explain some of the authentication code that was created prior to this video, simply to save some time. Like I said earlier, we're using Clerk Auth for our authentication. And since I don't feel like this is the super huge focal point of the app, I'm going to just kind of briefly explain the code that I already have implemented. So first, we have the env config. This class is responsible for storing the values from the .env file that I mentioned. We're going to save the ZEGO app ID, ZEGO app sign, and clerk key. If there's an error at any point, or if the values are null, we'll just throw an exception. And this is just to assume that there's something wrong with the configuration if one of them is wrong. If everything is smooth, then we save those values to their properties right here. We also have the qubit, a user qubit. This is simply for persisting user data throughout the application. This is a state management thing. You can use whatever you'd like to. I personally like Flutter block a lot, so I'm using a qubit that stores a user object. When we log in, we save the user. When we log out, we clear the user. That's all that this class does. Then we have the home page. This is a stateless widget. We get access to the user information. This is assuming, like, by the time we reach this page, we've already logged in, so we can assume that we have a user object, and that is simply just a home page with a logout button, and then in the middle it says welcome username. Then we have the login page, another stateless widget, just has an app bar with a title, live streaming app, and the clerk authentication widget, which allows us to prompt users to enter their email and password to be authenticated into the app. And last but not least, we have the main.dart. This is the bread and butter of everything, but first we're just checking to make sure that the widgets have been initialized. Then we're calling that env-config class to actually initialize those variables, those environment variables. Then within the build method, we're creating an instance of a user qubit. Then we're passing this into the block provider to use within the app. From there, the child will be a clerk auth, which is essentially just a wrapper for everything related to the clerk error listener. Now, this is where we're going to be using two methods, signed in builder and signed out builder. When we sign into the app, we get a user object. So we're going to save that to the qubit. And then we're going to continue to proceed to the home page. Okay. Similar thing for when we sign out, we're going to clear the user and we're going to then proceed back to the login page. So this is code that is just here to help us when it comes to determining which user is who when we're starting a stream or watching a stream. So I'll go ahead and run this right now just to see what this looks like. On the left, we have our live streaming app, and we have the panel that's prompting us to enter our email address. Now with Clerk, I've already created 4 user accounts. I'll probably just be kind of going in and out of each of them, but very simplistic emails and passwords. But a.a.com will be the first one, and the password is ZEGO2025. So when we log in, the user Trey is tied to that account, so it says welcome Trey. If I were to hit sign out and try this again with another one of the accounts I created, same password, ZEGO2025, we'll now get a different user and it says welcome Tiffany. So with that out the way, this makes it a lot easier for the actual implementation of the live streaming UI kit that we're working with. So first thing we need to do is go back to the home page. And within here, we're going to create a method that will allow us to proceed to another page where we enter the live ID. The live ID is how we determine which room a user wants to begin a stream or watch a stream. So if they want to join room Jackson, they'll type in Jackson. If they want to enter room XXX, they'll type in XXX. If the user is a host of the stream, then that means anyone else that joins the room automatically has to be a viewer or a watcher. Let's go ahead and jump in and create this method. So we're just going to call it jump to enter live page. We'll just make this a void method. Jump to enter live ID page. And we'll pass in a build context because we're going to need it for routing a little bit later. And we need to know if the person that is going to this page is a host or not. So we'll just make a Boolean is host. From there, we'll call navigator, navigator.push. And we'll push on a material page route. Material page route. And for right now, since we don't have the actual page created, we'll just go to a blank scaffold with a center that says, is the user a host or not? All right, and it looks like we don't need those brackets around it. So let's clean this up a little bit. All right, perfect. Then we'll add some buttons here. Let's create some space first because we don't want it too crowded. So we'll add a gap, and then we'll add an elevated button. And what that button is going to do is going to take us to the enter live ID page. And this button will be for starting a live, and the other button will be for watching a live. So for this one, we'll call jump to live page. and is host will be true, and the child will be start a live. Okay, we'll copy and paste this just to save some time. And this one will be watch a live, and is host will be false. And let's reduce that padding just a little bit. All right, so if I were to hit start a live, I go to this page, it says is host true. And then if I hit watch a live, it says is host false. So that's working perfectly how we need it. Now we can go ahead and create the enter live ID page. So I'm going to go over to presentation, enter live ID page.dart. And this is going to be a stateful widget because we're going to have a text editor in here. So I'll use stateful widget, enter live ID page, add our imports, and we'll need to know, is that person the host? Because now that they're on this page, we need to know, are they hosting, or I'm sorry, are they streaming or are they watching? So we'll add that as required param. Then down here, let's go ahead and create our first, or really our only, I guess you could say property on this state class is the live ID controller, which is a text editing controller. And that's going to be responsible for taking the input of the live ID that the user enters. Let's go ahead and add the dispose while we're here, so we don't have that text editing controller lingering around. And we're going to create a handle submit button, private void method, handle submit. Now this method is going to be responsible for when we click start or watch after they've entered a live ID. So once they've entered the ID, now we need to actually proceed to the stream itself. So first we're going to need the live ID, and we'll get that from the live ID controller.text. And we'll do some checks here. First, if the live ID is empty, we want to prompt the user and let them know that, hey, they need to enter something. So if live ID is empty, we'll get a scaffold messenger of context, show a snack bar, content will be text, and we'll just say, please enter a live stream ID. All right, let's clean that up a little bit. Now, if it's not empty, for now, we're just going to clear the controller. In a little bit, I'll explain more of what action will take place here. But for now, if the live ID is not empty, then we'll just clear it. So now we can actually go down here and build the widget out. So we're not going to return a container. We're going to return a scaffold. Let's give it an app bar. App bar, give it a title. Title will be enter live ID. And based on if this user is a host or not, we'll say to start or to watch. So enter live ID. Oops, too many brackets. So we'll call widget host, and let's see, widget host. If that is true, then we're going to say to start. Otherwise, we'll say to watch. So let's go ahead and refresh that and see what that looks like right now. So if I hit start alive, oh, I forgot. We need to change that. We'll go back here and replace the enter live ID page with that scaffold that we had mentioned earlier. Is host will be is host. And we need to import that. Okay, now if we refresh this, if I hit start live, cool. Enter live ID to start. If I hit watch alive, enter live ID to watch. Okay, let's go ahead and continue with building out the rest of this widget. So this is going to be pretty simple. We'll just have a body, a safe area, and the child will add some padding because we don't want it to be too crowded. Let's see, padding, edge insets all 16. All right. And then that child will just be a column. Give it some children. First, we're going to add the text field that's going to be responsible for capturing that live ID. So the controller will be the live ID controller. And then we'll just give it a little decoration by having a hint text and then adding a border. So we'll give it input decoration. Let's say hint text, live stream ID, and border will be outline input border. All right, know that was a lot, but we see now we have the text field for entering the live stream ID. Perfect. Now let's go ahead, give this some space, because now we're going to add a button below it that will actually handle the submission. So another elevated button. On press, we're going to call that handle submit method. And then the child will just either say start or watch based on if the user is hosting or not. So widget.host is host. If true, start. If not, watch. Okay, so as you can see here, the start button we have right here, if we type in, hit start, actually, I don't think, I think I need to do this actually. There we go. Now, if I hit start, it clears it out because the value was not empty. If I hit start now, it's going to say, please enter a live stream ID. Same thing for if we watch it live, hit watch. It's going to ask us to enter an ID. If we have a value, hit watch, then it's going to clear it out. Perfect. Now we need to finish up the application by creating the actual page that the stream will live on. And this will be the live page. So I'm going to create another page called livepage.dart. This will be a stateless widget, a little bit easier. We'll call it live page. Add our imports. And we're going to need two things here. We need to know if the user is a host as well as the live ID that we got from the previous page. So final bool is host and final string live ID. And then we'll pass those in as required parameters to our constructor. All right, perfect. Then down here, we need to get that user instance that we mentioned or that we captured earlier in the app. We'll do this by this is some block code, so don't think this is too important, but this is how we would access the information from that user qubit. Going to import that Flutter block, and then we'll get the state, which is the user object. And since we are at the live page at this point, we can assume that this value will not be null. So we now have the user object. Then we're going to remove the container, return a safe area, and then this is where we'll actually add the ZEGO UI Kit pre-built live streaming widget. So we'll say ZEGO UI Kit ZEGO UI Kit pre-built live streaming widget. Okay. Then we need to pass in the ZEGO app ID, which is from the env config, ZEGO app ID. We also need the app sign, which will come from the env config app sign. And then the user ID is going to be from the user itself, user ID. And then the username will come from the user also. And I've already applied usernames to all of the users, so I'm going to add an exclamation point here because we're assuming that those won't be null either. The live ID, we have that. And then the config is important here because based on if the user is a host or not, we're going to return two different configs. So if the user is a host, then we return ZEGO UI Kit pre-built live streaming config host. And then if they're not the host, then we return audience. All right, so with that out the way, now similar to what we did on the home page for the Enter Live ID, we need to go back to the Enter Live ID page and actually allow the user to jump to the live page. So I'm going to copy and paste the logic here. And within handle submit, we will now go to the live page. IsHost will be widget.isHost, and the live ID, we already have it right there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and see what this looks like now. If I hit start a live stream ID, let's just say Jackson, hit start. It's going to ask us for permissions, and then we would start the stream. Now, this is not going to work on an emulator because you can't use the camera or microphone for emulators. So I'm going to demonstrate what that looks like on some physical devices of mine here in a second, but I just wanted to show you what this looks like based on the widgets that we've just built. So that's what the stream page would look like. And then if we were to watch a live, let's say type in Jackson again, hit watch. This is what the room would look like for a streamer or for a member in the audience, but there's no one streaming yet with this live ID. So we have this kind of blurry, murky, grayish color. As you can see, I'm the only one in the audience right now. So everything appears to be working, but let's see what this actually looks like on some physical devices. All right, so I now have the application running on my iPad. I'm currently authenticated into the account for Tiffany. So now we're going to start a live stream. So I'll select start a live, and from here I'll enter a fake live stream ID. I'll just type in AAA, hit start. And this is now the live stream page. So this will kind of like the first step before you start the live stream. But basically once I hit start, the stream actually begins. So I'm Tiffany. I am the only person in this room, as you can see, as the host. And that's me right there, obviously. But I also have two members who came to watch, and I'll be using my current phone and my old phone as the audience members. So I'll enter the watch page to enter in the live ID to watch, and I'll join from my old phone first. As you can see now, we have two people. Jacob just joined. This is Jacob. And then I also have another watcher that I'll add right now. So now you can see there are three people in here, me, Chris, and Jacob. So these two are the watchers and I am the streamer, okay? You can also do things like send messages. So Jacob says hello and Chris says hi. Okay, so this is essentially how you use the live streaming UI kit from ZEGOCLOUD. If this video was helpful, as always, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments, and please be sure to check out ZEGOCLOUD. They're doing some pretty amazing things with their applications. Until next time, enjoy the rest of your evening. Peace.